The sky above New York City tore open like fabric ripped by invisible hands. Metal ships the size of mountains emerged from the wound in space, their hulls black as midnight and covered in symbols that hurt human eyes to look at. Within minutes, every screen on Earth flickered and died, only to restart with the same message playing simultaneously across billions of devices. A creature appeared on the screens. It had 6 arms, skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed with cold intelligence. When it spoke, translation algorithms embedded in the broadcast made every human hear it in their native language. People of Earth, I am Commander Velrax of the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender all military assets and prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the sterilization of your planet. This is not a negotiation. This is an inevitability. The broadcast ended. Around the world, people stared at their screens in silence. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, instead of riots or chaos, people began to smile. It was a strange smile, one that Velrax would have found deeply unsettling had he been watching. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for a knock on the door and had spent years preparing for the visitor. In the Cascade Mountains of North America, Dr. Maya Sullivan had no idea that the world above was experiencing first contact with hostile aliens. She was 300 feet underground, staring at something that should not exist. The cavern stretched before her team like a cathedral made of crystal and stone. Maya's headlamp swept across walls that sparkled with embedded minerals, but her attention was fixed on the center of the chamber. There, suspended in a cylinder of clear crystal, was a woman. The woman's skin was pale as moonlight, and her ears came to elegant points. She wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid silver, flowing across her body in patterns that shifted even through the crystal prison. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful as if she were merely sleeping. "This is impossible," breathed Dr. Kate Morrison, Maya's closest colleague. "The dating on this cavern puts it at over 10,000 years old. Nothing organic could survive that long." Maya pressed her hand against the crystal. It was warm. She could feel a faint vibration like a heartbeat, pulsing through the material. "Look at this," called out Danny Cruz from across the chamber. He was kneeling beside something else encased in crystal. "Is this what I think it is?" Maya hurried over and felt her breath catch in her throat. Inside another crystal cylinder, smaller than the first, was an egg. It was the size of a basketball, with scales that gleamed red and gold in the lamplight. As Maya watched, the egg moved. Just slightly, but unmistakably. "It's alive," Maya whispered. "After 10,000 years, it's still alive." Before anyone could respond, the ground shook. Dust rained from the ceiling and the crystal cylinders began to glow. Maya stumbled backward as cracks appeared in the larger cylinder, spreading like lightning across its surface. "Everyone out!" Maya shouted, but it was too late. The crystal shattered with a sound like 1,000 bells ringing at once. The woman inside drew in a deep, gasping breath and opened her eyes. They were the color of amber, ancient and aware, and they fixed immediately on Maya. The woman spoke, but the words were in a language Maya had never heard. It sounded like music mixed with the rustling of leaves. Then the woman paused, tilted her head, and spoke again. This time the words were in English, though accented in a way that made them sound elegant and strange. "Where am I? How long has passed?" Maya found her voice, though her hands were shaking. "You're in the Cascade Mountains in North America. On Earth, we found you in this chamber. How are you speaking English?" The woman sat up slowly, testing her limbs as if she had forgotten how they worked. "I am speaking what you speak. It is a gift of my people. I am Elindra of the Eldari, and I have been waiting for a very long time." She looked around the chamber, her gaze landing on the egg. "Good, Emberwing survived as well." "Emberwing?" Kate asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Is that the creature in the egg?" Elindra stood, moving with a grace that seemed to defy gravity. She approached the smaller crystal cylinder and placed her hand on its surface. Instantly, the crystal began to dissolve, not breaking, but simply flowing away like water. The egg fell gently into her waiting hands. "Emberwing is a dragon," Elindra said simply, as if this explained everything. "The last of the dimensional dragons born from the fires between worlds. When he hatches, he will be bound to me, and together we will serve as guardians." Maya's mind was racing, trying to process what she was seeing. Guardians of what? And why are you here? Why were you sealed in crystal? Elindra's expression grew somber. "I was fleeing. My people fought a great war against an empire that consumed worlds. We lost. But before our civilization fell, we scattered our most precious treasures across dimensions, hiding them where our enemies could never find them. I chose Earth because I sensed something special here, a potential that other worlds lacked. The egg in Elindra's hands began to crack. She set it down gently on the cavern floor and stepped back. The crack spread rapidly, and then the shell burst apart. What emerged was small, barely the size of a house cat but unmistakably reptilian. It had 4 legs, 2 wings folded against its back, and scales that shimmered with an inner fire. Its eyes opened, revealing pupils that swirled like galaxies. The dragon chirped, a sound that was almost comical coming from such a mythical creature. It looked at Elindra and chirped again, then turned its gaze to Maya. The scientist felt something click in her mind, like a door opening that she had never known was closed. Suddenly she could sense the dragon's emotions: curiosity, hunger, and a deep instinctive recognition. "He likes you," Elindra said, surprise evident in her voice. "That is unusual. Dimensional dragons rarely bond with anyone other than their chosen guardian. Your species must have changed since I last walked among you." "You've been to Earth before?" Maya asked. "Long ago, when your kind were just learning to shape stone into tools. I walked your world for a time, studying, learning. I left seeds of knowledge here and there, small gifts to help your evolution. Then I went into stasis, waiting. Waiting for what?" Elindra met Maya's eyes, and in that gaze was the weight of centuries. Waiting for them to find me. And now they have. The ground shook again, but this time it was not from the crystal breaking. The tremor was deeper, more ominous. Maya's radio crackled to life, and she heard panicked voices from her surface team. "Dr. Sullivan, you need to see this. The sky. There are ships. Hundreds of them. They're broadcasting a message. They're calling it an invasion." Maya's blood went cold. She looked at Elindra, who had closed her eyes as if listening to something distant. "The Council has found Earth," the elf woman said quietly. "They must have detected the dimensional signature when Emberwing hatched. They will believe the World Forge is here." "What is the World Forge?" Danny asked, his voice shaking. "A weapon, a tool, a key to reshaping reality itself. My people created it in desperation during our final days. The Council has been hunting it for millennia." Elindra opened her eyes, and there was steel in her gaze. "They will destroy this world to claim it." Maya felt panic rising in her chest, but then something strange happened. She thought about humanity's history, about the wars they had survived, the disasters they had overcome, the impossible challenges they had met with innovation and stubborn determination. She thought about the rumors she had heard, the whispered projects in government facilities, the technologies that seemed too advanced for their time. And she smiled. Elindra noticed the expression and raised an eyebrow. "You are not afraid?" "Oh, I'm terrified," Maya admitted. "But I'm also thinking about something my grandmother used to say. She was a soldier, fought in 3 wars. She told me that the most dangerous enemy is not the one who prepares for battle. It's the one who looks forward to it." Maya pulled out her satellite phone and dialed a number she had been given years ago, a number with so many security clearances attached to it that she had never dared to use it. Until now, a woman's voice answered on the first ring. "Dr. Sullivan, this is General Claire Meadows. I know why you're calling. Bring your find to the surface. We've been waiting for this day for a very long time." Maya looked at Elindra and the small dragon now perched on the elf woman's shoulder. "I think we need to show you what humanity has been doing while you were sleeping." As they made their way back through the tunnels toward the surface, Elindra felt something she had not experienced in 10,000 years. Hope. This world, these humans, they were not cowering in fear. They were preparing for war, and they were smiling. Above ground, President Linda Hayes stood in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military commanders and scientists. On the main screen, Commander Velrax's ultimatum played on repeat. Around the table, nobody looked worried. Instead, there was an air of grim satisfaction. 72 hours, the president said calmly. "That gives us plenty of time to move our pieces into position. General Meadows, are our hidden assets ready?" "Yes, Madam President. Project Ironforge is fully operational. Every asteroid base, every hidden shipyard, every weapon system we've built over the past 50 years is ready to deploy." Ian, the quantum disruptor designs on the screen. "What if we combined them? What if we used Emberwing's fire to enhance our quantum weapons?" Sophie's eyes lit up with understanding. The dragon's fire could act as a dimensional anchor, stabilizing our weapons and increasing their penetration through reality layers. We could potentially target ships that aren't even fully in our dimension. More than that, Elindra added, catching on to their thinking. Emberwing's fire could teach your weapons to burn across dimensions naturally. He could infuse your arsenal with a fraction of his power, making every shot you fire a dimensional attack. Claire looked between them, hope dawning on her face for the first time since the Council's arrival. How long would that take? Days, Elindra said. Perhaps a week if we're careful. Emberwing is still young, but he grows quickly. By the time the Council's ultimatum expires, he should be strong enough to share his power. We don't have a week, Claire said grimly. We have 72 hours, and I'm betting the Council won't wait that long once they see we're not surrendering quietly. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced incoming hostile contacts. They rushed to the command center, a massive room filled with displays and personnel manning stations. On the main screen, space around Earth's orbit filled with signatures. The Council's fleet had launched its first assault. Commander Velrax had sent 100 ships, a probe force designed to test Earth's defenses and break any resistance. The ships descended toward the planet in a formation that had conquered countless worlds, their weapons charging with energies that could level cities. But as they entered Earth's orbital space, something happened that Velrax had not anticipated. The space around his ships rippled, and suddenly they were surrounded. Warships emerged from behind the moon, from asteroid clusters, from positions that should have been empty void. Earth's hidden fleet had been waiting, engines cold and silent, invisible to the Council's sensors until the moment they activated. All ships, engage, Claire ordered, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. Let's show them what humanity can do. The battle began with a coordinated strike that caught the Council forces completely off guard. Earth's quantum disruptors fired in unison, and Council ships found their shields meaningless. Projectiles phased through their defenses and tore through hulls designed to withstand nuclear blasts. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 15 Council vessels were destroyed. Velrax watched in horror as his probe force was torn apart. These humans should have been helpless, primitive, easy prey. Instead, they were fighting with technology and tactics that he had never encountered. His ships fired back, their energy weapons blazing across the void. But Earth's vessels moved with incredible precision, dodging and weaving through the attacks as if they knew where each shot would be before it was fired. In the command center, Maya watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and terror. This was humanity at war, and it was both magnificent and terrible. Ships died on both sides. Lives ended in flashes of light and silent explosions in the vacuum of space. But Earth was winning. Elindra stood beside her, watching with the eyes of someone who had seen war before. Your people fight well, she said quietly. Coordinated, adaptive, ruthless when necessary. You remind me of my people in our prime. Emberwing chirped from where he sat on a console, watching the battle with interest. The dragon's eyes swirled with colors, and Maya realized he was learning, absorbing the patterns of combat, understanding the flow of battle. The fight lasted 18 minutes. When it ended, 73 Council ships had been destroyed. Earth had lost 12 vessels. The surviving Council forces retreated, fleeing back toward their main fleet with their shields battered and their confidence shattered. In his flagship, Commander Velrax stared at the tactical display in disbelief. He had fought in 100 campaigns, conquered dozens of worlds. Never had he encountered resistance like this. Never had a primitive world fought back with such effectiveness. He opened a channel to the Council's main armada, his voice shaking slightly as he made his report. Supreme Command, this is Velrax. The humans have hidden technology and military capabilities far beyond our initial assessment. They are not primitive. They are dangerous. I am requesting immediate reinforcement. Back on Earth, in the command center deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, President Linda Hayes appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but satisfied. Well done, General Meadows. Send a message to Commander Velrax. Tell him that was just our greeting. Tell him we're ready for round 2 whenever he is. Claire nodded and began issuing orders. Maya turned to Elindra, who was smiling that same knowing smile from before. Your people were ready, the elf warrior said. Truly ready. Not just with weapons, but with the will to use them. We've had a lot of practice fighting impossible odds, Maya replied. We're good at it. Emberwing chirped in agreement, and for the first time since awakening, Elindra felt something she had not felt in 10,000 years. She felt like perhaps, just perhaps, this war could be won. The Council had expected easy prey. They had found warriors instead. 3 days after the first battle, Emberwing had grown to the size of a small aircraft. The dragon now required a specially constructed hangar at Site 17, one with reinforced walls that could withstand his dimensional fire when he practiced his abilities. Maya spent hours each day studying him, taking readings, trying to understand how a creature could exist across multiple planes of reality simultaneously. Elindra had taken on a different role. In a training facility carved into the mountain, she stood before a group of humanity's best fighter pilots. Lieutenant Amy Brooks and Captain Nicole Grant were at the front of the group, their eyes fixed on the ancient elf warrior with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Your machines are impressive," Elindra said, pacing before them like a teacher addressing students. "Your weapons are powerful, but you fight like humans, bound by 3 dimensions and linear thinking. The Council has fought species like yours 1,000 times. They know how you move, how you think, how you react. If you want to survive, you must learn to fight differently." She gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing a simulation of the previous battle. The human ships moved in precise formations, their tactics clean and efficient, but Elindra pointed out weaknesses that even the most experienced pilots had not noticed. "Here," she said, freezing the image. "Your wing brakes left to avoid fire. Predictable. The Council's targeting computers can calculate that maneuver before you complete it. You survive because your shields are strong and your weapons are new to them, but they are adapting. In the next battle, they will anticipate these movements." Amy raised her hand. "What would you do differently?" Elindra smiled. "I would not avoid the fire. I would move through dimensions existing in this reality and another simultaneously. The enemy fires at where you are, but you are also where you are not. Their weapons pass through empty space while you strike from an angle that should not exist." The pilots looked at each other with confusion. Nicole spoke up, her voice respectful but skeptical. "With respect, we are not dimensional beings. Our ships exist in normal space. We cannot move through other dimensions." "Not yet," Elindra agreed. "But your Dr. Kane has been studying the rifts. She understands that reality is thinner in some places, that with the right frequency, matter can slip between layers of existence. Your ships already use quantum technology. With adjustments, they could phase briefly, moving through dimensional boundaries for split seconds. It would be enough." Sophie Kane, who had been observing the training session, stepped forward with excitement in her eyes. "She is right. We have been so focused on weaponizing dimensional physics that we did not consider using it for defense and mobility. If we modulate the quantum field generators, we could create brief dimensional shifts. The ships would flicker out of normal space for microseconds, just long enough to avoid incoming fire." General Claire Meadows, also present for the training, nodded slowly. "How long to retrofit the fleet?" "For all ships, 2 weeks. For a squadron, 48 hours. "Do it," Claire ordered. "Equip Lieutenant Brooks and Captain Grant's squadrons first. If this works, we will roll it out to the entire fleet." Over the next 2 days, Elindra worked closely with the pilots, teaching them not just tactics but a different way of thinking. She taught them about spatial awareness beyond 3 dimensions, about anticipating enemy movements by understanding the flow of battle as a living thing. She taught them meditation techniques that sharpened their reflexes and expanded their perception. Amy and Nicole proved to be exceptional students. They absorbed Elindra's lessons with a speed that impressed even the ancient warrior. Their human brains, capable of rapid adaptation and neuroplasticity, rewired themselves to accommodate concepts that would have taken Eldari students years to master. "Your species is remarkable," Elindra told Maya one evening as they watched the pilots train in simulators. "My people lived for thousands of years, but that longevity made us slow to change. You humans live brief lives, but you evolve, adapt, and learn at incredible speeds. In some ways, you are more advanced, and species 10 times older." Maya smiled at the compliment. "We have had to be. Earth has thrown everything at us. Ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, wars. We learned to adapt or die. I guess that shaped us into what we are." Emberwing, who had been resting nearby, suddenly raised his head. The dragon's eyes swirled with colors that Maya had learned to recognize as concern. Elindra noticed immediately and moved to her companion, placing a hand on his scaled neck. "What is it?" Maya asked. "He senses something," Elindra said quietly. "A disturbance in the dimensional fabric. Something large is coming through the rifts, something that carries the stench of death across multiple realities. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Maya and Alindra rushed to the command center, where General Meadows was already coordinating responses. On the main display, space around Earth showed new contacts emerging from dimensional rifts. Lots of them. We count 300 ships, a tactical officer reported. They are larger than the probe force, better armed, and their formation suggests this is a dedicated assault fleet. Intelligence is identifying it as a Council extinction fleet. Claire's face went pale. Extinction fleet. That is what they send when they want to make an example of a world. They do not just conquer, they destroy utterly, leaving nothing but debris as a warning to others. On the communication channel, a new voice emerged. It was cold, feminine, and carried an authority that made even Velrak sound like a subordinate. Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Zix Thara of the Extinction Fleet. Your resistance has been noted and deemed unacceptable. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, I will deploy planet cracker weapons. Your world will be shattered, your species erased, and your system will serve as a monument to the folly of defying the Council. This is your only warning. The channel closed. The command center fell silent as the weight of the threat settled over everyone. Planet crackers were not a myth. Intelligence had confirmed their existence. Weapons that could destabilize a planet's core, causing it to tear itself apart from within. Maya felt fear clawing at her chest, but she looked at Alindra and saw something unexpected. The elf warrior was smiling, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been handed the missing piece of a puzzle. I know why they are really here, Alindra said quietly. It is not just about conquest anymore. When Emberwing hatched, his dimensional signature rippled across realities. The Council detected it, and they know what it means. They know he is connected to the World Forge. You said the World Forge was hidden, Maya said. You said your people scattered it across dimensions where the Council could never find it. Alindra turned to face her, and in those ancient amber eyes, Maya saw both sorrow and determination. I did not lie. The World Forge is hidden, but not in a place. In a being. When my people fell, our greatest scientists bound the World Forge to the last dimensional dragon egg. They made it part of Emberwing's essence. As he grows and matures, the World Forge grows with him. When he reaches his full size, he will not just be a dragon. He will be a living key to reshaping reality itself. The implications hit everyone in the command center like a physical blow. General Meadows spoke first, her voice tight. So if the Council captures Emberwing, they get the World Forge. They get the power to rewrite the universe however they want. Yes, Alindra confirmed. That is why they sent an extinction fleet. They will destroy Earth if they must, but their true goal is to capture Emberwing alive. With him they would be unstoppable. Sophie stepped forward, her scientific mind racing through scenarios. Then we hide him. We send him away through a dimensional rift somewhere they cannot follow. That would only delay the inevitable, Alindra said. The Council will hunt him across dimensions. They will destroy world after world until they find him. And Emberwing is still young. He needs time to mature, to grow into his full power. Running will not give him that time. Maya felt something click in her mind, an idea that was probably crazy but felt right nonetheless. Then we do not run, we fight, but not defensively. We take the fight to them. Everyone turned to look at her. Claire raised an eyebrow. Explain. They want Emberwing, Maya said, the plan forming as she spoke. They will not destroy Earth if there is a chance he is here, so we use him as bait. We draw the extinction fleet into a battle on our terms, at a location we choose. We make them commit fully to the attack. And then we hit them with everything we have, our quantum weapons, our dimensional technology, and Emberwing's fire all working together. That is incredibly risky, Claire said, but Maya could see the general was considering it. If we fail, we lose everything. Earth, Emberwing, any chance of stopping the Council? If we hide and wait, we lose anyway, Maya countered. They will eventually break through our defenses. Planet crackers will rain down on our cities. At least this way we go down fighting and we take as many of them with us as we can. Alindra placed a hand on Maya's shoulder and there was warmth in her touch. You think like a warrior, Maya Sullivan. My people would have been honored to fight beside yours. She turned to address the room. I support this plan. The Council expects prey. Give them predators instead. Show them that Earth does not break, does not bow, and does not fear extinction. Show them that you smile because you were born for battles like this. Emberwing chirped loudly from the doorway where he had been listening. The dragon, now the size of a truck, walked into the command center with surprising grace. His eyes, swirling with galaxies and ancient power, fixed on each person in the room, and somehow everyone present understood what he was communicating: acceptance, determination, and a readiness to fight. President Linda Hayes appeared on the main screen. Having listened to the entire conversation from the White House Situation Room, General Meadows, Dr. Sullivan, Elindra, I am authorizing this operation. Choose your battlefield, prepare your trap, and make sure that when the extinction fleet arrives, they understand why humanity has survived every challenge the universe has thrown at us. She paused, her expression hardening with resolve. Send a message to Admiral Zixathera. Tell her we reject her ultimatum. Tell her that if she wants this planet, she will have to take it from us. And tell her that Earth has a surprise waiting. Claire began issuing orders immediately. All fleet commanders, this is General Meadows. We are going to offense protocol. Rally point will be Terra's Gate, the dimensional rift near Jupiter's orbit. Equip all vessels with the new phase shift technology. Dr. Kane, I need you to work with Emberwing. If we are going to use his power to enhance our weapons, now is the time to figure out how. Sophie nodded and approached the dragon cautiously. Emberwing lowered his head, allowing her to place sensors on his scales. As she worked, the dragon's inner fire pulsed, and the readings on her instruments went wild with energy signatures that should not exist. Amy and Nicole entered the command center, their flight suits already on. General, our squadrons are ready. We have mastered the dimensional phasing. Just give us a target. Elindra smiled at her students. You will have plenty of targets soon. The extinction fleet will come in force, confident in their superiority. That confidence will be their downfall. Maya moved to the observation window, looking out at the night sky where stars twinkled peacefully. Somewhere out there, 300 warships were preparing to destroy her world. A week ago, she had been a simple archaeologist, studying ancient rocks and lost civilizations. Now she was helping plan a battle that would determine the fate of humanity. But as she stood there, she felt no fear. Instead, she felt the same emotion she had seen on the faces of soldiers, pilots, and leaders throughout this crisis. Determination, resolve, and yes, that strange smile that came from knowing you were ready for whatever came next. Emberwing moved beside her, his massive form filling the space. The dragon's fire flickered gently, casting shadows that danced across dimensions. Maya reached out and touched his scales, feeling the warmth of ancient power flowing beneath. We are going to win this, she said quietly. Not because we are stronger or because we have better technology. We are going to win because we refuse to lose. That is what makes us human. The dragon chirped softly in agreement, and in the reflection of the window, Maya saw Elindra approach from behind. The Council has destroyed 700 worlds, the elf warrior said. They believe nothing can stop them. They are about to learn that they have never faced a species like humanity. A species that smiles at extinction and fights harder when the odds are impossible. When do we move? Maya asked. Tomorrow, Claire answered from across the room. We give them no time to prepare, no time to adapt. We strike first, strike hard, and show them that Earth is not a world to be conquered. We are a world to be feared. As the command center buzzed with activity, with plans being made and forces being mobilized, Maya felt a strange calm settle over her. The extinction fleet was coming. The battle that would decide everything was about to begin, and Earth was ready. More than ready. Earth was smiling. The dimensional rift near Jupiter's orbit pulsed with energy, casting strange lights across the void of space. Terra's Gate, as humanity had named it, was the largest rift in the solar system. Hers are worth breaking. Her fighter impacted the planet cracker at full speed, and her quantum drive detonated simultaneously with the antimatter core. The two explosions met, collided, and for a brief moment space-time itself seemed to pause. The dimensional bubble Amy had created held, containing the blast just long enough for nearby ships to activate emergency phase shifts and escape. When the explosion finally broke free, it was diminished, weakened, its fury spent against Amy's sacrifice. Ships that should have been vaporized escaped with only minor damage. Emberwing, Elindra, and Maya survived, protected by the dragon's dimensional shields and Amy's final gift. The extinction fleet broke, seeing their planet crackers destroyed and their flagship heavily damaged, with nearly 2/3 of their force eliminated. The remaining council ships retreated. They fled through dimensional rifts, abandoning the battlefield in disorder. In the human command ship, silence fell over the bridge. They had won, but the victory tasted of ashes. Amy Brooks had been one of their best. A pilot with a family waiting for her, a future ahead of her. Now she was gone, her sacrifice ensuring that future existed at all. Nicole Grant's voice came over the channel, shaking with grief and anger. All squadrons return to formation. Honor her by finishing this fight, but the fight was over. The extinction fleet was routed, Terra's gate was secure, and Earth had survived. General Claire Meadows stood at the observation window, watching the debris field that marked where the battle had raged. Somewhere in that field was what remained of Amy's fighter, a small piece of metal that had changed the course of the war. "Prepare a full military honors ceremony," Claire said quietly. Lieutenant Amy Brooks died saving not just her squadron, not just the fleet, but all of humanity. Her name will be remembered. Emberwing and Alindra returned to the command ship, the Dragon landing in the main hangar with surprising gentleness. Maya climbed down from the harness, her face pale, her hands shaking from the adrenaline. She had watched Amy's sacrifice from mere kilometers away, had seen the pilot dive knowingly toward death to save others. Alindra placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. She was a warrior in the truest sense, not because she sought glory, but because when the moment came, she chose duty over self. High people would sing songs of her courage. "Then we will make sure those songs are sung," Maya said, wiping tears from her face. "We will make sure everyone remembers what she did." But even as they mourned, new alarms began to sound. Sophie Kane appeared on the command screen, her expression grave. "General, we are detecting new dimensional signatures. Multiple rifts opening throughout the solar system. The energy readings are massive, far larger than the extinction fleet." Claire felt her stomach drop. "How many ships?" Sophie checked her instruments and her face went pale. "At least 3,000, General. It is the Council's Grand Armada. They received the extinction fleet's distress signal, and they are bringing everything they have." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The Council's full military might was coming, and this time there would be no retreat, no second chances. But as Claire looked around at her crew, at the scientists and soldiers who had fought so hard, she saw the same expression on every face, not fear, not despair, that same knowing smile that had been there from the beginning. Earth had won once. They would find a way to win again, because that was what humans did. They smiled at impossible odds, and then they fought anyway. The Grand Armada emerged from dimensional rifts like a plague of locusts, 3,000 warships filling the space around Earth's solar system with their overwhelming presence. Supreme Commander Torvac stood on the bridge of his flagship, the largest warship ever constructed by the Galactic Council. He had expected to find Earth in ruins, the extinction fleet victorious and preparing for occupation. Instead, his sensors showed the wreckage of Admiral Zixthera's fleet scattered across Jupiter's orbit. The surviving Council ships were retreating in disorder, damaged and demoralized. And there, near the dimensional rift, the human fleet waited, battered, reduced in numbers, but still organized, still ready to fight. And with them was something that made Torvax's blood run cold, a dragon the size of a battleship, its scales shimmering with power that his instruments could barely measure. "Analysis?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Supreme Commander, the dragon is radiating dimensional energy on 17 different frequencies. It matches the signature we have been hunting for millennia. That creature is bound to the World Forge. If we capture it, we gain the power to reshape reality itself." Torvac studied the tactical display, his mind calculating probabilities and strategies. The humans had proven themselves formidable, far more dangerous than initial assessments had suggested, but they were exhausted, outnumbered 15-1 and running low on ammunition. "This battle should be over quickly. Open a channel to the human leadership," he ordered. "Let us see if they understand the futility of continued resistance." On Earth, in the command center at Site 17, President Linda Hayes received the incoming transmission. She looked tired, her eyes red from lack of sleep, but her spine was straight and her voice was steady as she accepted the call. Supreme Commander Torvax appeared on the screen, his alien features imposing and cold. "President Hayes, I am Supreme Commander Torvax of the Galactic Council. Your forces have fought bravely, but this ends now. You face 3,000 warships, the full might of an empire that has conquered 700 worlds. Surrender the dragon and we will allow your species to survive as a subject race. Refuse and we will reduce your planet to asteroids. Linda Hayes smiled, and it was that same knowing smile that had defined humanity's response from the beginning. Commander Torvax, your offer is noted and rejected. But before you commit your forces to what will be a very costly battle, I suggest you look more carefully at the dimensional rift behind our fleet. Torvax frowned and gestured to his sensor officer. What is she talking about? The officer's face went pale as he studied his instruments. Supreme Commander, the rift is expanding. Something is coming through. Multiple somethings. The energy signatures are massive, far beyond anything we have encountered. The dimensional rift near Jupiter suddenly blazed with light, expanding to 10 times its previous size. And through that opening, ships began to emerge. But these were not human vessels. They were crystalline, elegant, and ancient. Their hulls sang with power that predated the Council by thousands of years. Each ship seemed to be alive, pulsing with energies that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Elindra stood beside Emberwing in the human flagship's observation deck, tears streaming down her face. My people, she whispered. They heard the call. They have returned. The Eldari fleet numbered in the hundreds, each ship a work of art and a weapon of devastating power. They moved through space with a grace that made even the most advanced Council vessels look crude by comparison. And at the head of the fleet was a ship larger than any other, its crystalline hull containing structures that seemed to shift and change as if existing in multiple states simultaneously. A new voice joined the communication channel, speaking in a language that translator algorithms struggled to interpret. Then the words resolved into something understandable, carrying an authority that made even Supreme Commander Torvax straighten involuntarily. I am Elder Lysandra of the Eldari, returned from our refuge beyond dimensions. For 10,000 years we have watched and waited, healing from wounds inflicted by your predecessors. We scattered ourselves across realities, hiding until it was safe to emerge. That time has come. On the human command ship, General Claire Meadows looked at Elindra with surprise. You knew they would come. Elindra shook her head. I hoped. When Emberwing reached his full awakening during the last battle, the World Forge activated. That activation sent a signal across dimensions. A call that only the Eldari could hear. A call that said it was time to return. Maya stood beside them, watching the Eldari fleet take position alongside humanity's battered forces. They came to help us. No, Elindra said softly. They came to honor an alliance with the species that protected their guardian. You could have surrendered Emberwing to save yourselves. You could have hidden him and avoided this war. Instead, you fought beside us, risked everything to keep him safe. The Eldari do not forget such courage. Supreme Commander Torvax stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. The situation had changed from an assured victory to a nightmare scenario. The Eldari were a legend, a ghost story that Council historians had debated for centuries. Some claimed they had been destroyed. Others said they had simply vanished. Now they were here, and their power was undeniable. But Torvax had not risen to supreme command by backing down from challenges. All ships, battle formation. We will destroy them all and claim the World Forge. The Council's dominance will not end here. Before he could give the order to fire, Maya's voice cut across the communication channel. She stood in the command center, flanked by Elindra and President Hayes, her expression calm despite the tension of the moment. Commander Torvax, you have a choice to make. You can fight and face destruction against the combined might of humanity and the Eldari, or you can retreat and preserve your fleet, but admit that the Council's age of conquest has met its match. But I am offering you a third option, peace but on Earth's terms. Torvax laughed, a harsh sound. You presume to dictate terms to the Galactic Council. What makes you think you have that authority? Maya's smile widened. Because we have what you want, and you cannot take it by force. The World Forge is bound to Emberwing, and Emberwing fights beside us. You can destroy us, but you will never capture the dragon alive. Your quest for ultimate power ends in failure either way. Unless you accept our terms. Elder Lysandra's voice joined in, supporting Maya's words. The human speaks truth. The World Forge was never meant to be a weapon of conquest. My people created it in desperation, but we came to understand that such power corrupts absolutely. We bound it to a dimensional dragon specifically so it could never be used for domination. Emberwing carries the World Forge, but he cannot activate it except to defend the innocent and restore balance. What are your terms? Torvax asked, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. President Hayes stepped forward to speak. The Council will withdraw from all conquered worlds. Those civilizations will be given the choice to govern themselves or join a new alliance based on equality, not subjugation. The Council will dissolve its military dictatorship and reform as a representative body where all species have a voice. And humanity, along with the Eldari, will serve as guarantors of this new order. Impossible! Torvax spat. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. You expect us to simply surrender our authority because you won a few battles. Maya looked directly at the Supreme Commander, and her expression was no longer diplomatic. We expect you to recognize reality. Your extinction fleet is destroyed. Your reputation for invincibility is shattered. And right now every species you have conquered is watching this transmission, seeing that the mighty Council can be defeated. If you continue this war, even if you somehow win, your empire will fracture. Rebellions will erupt on 100 worlds. Your reign ends either way. She paused, letting the words sink in. But if you accept our terms, you get something valuable. A chance to transform from conquerors to partners. A chance to be remembered not as tyrants, but as leaders who chose wisdom over pride. History will judge you by what you do in this moment. Emberwing moved to the communication station, his massive form filling the screen, the dragon's eyes swirling with galaxies and ancient power, fixed on Torvax. When Emberwing spoke, his voice resonated across dimensions, bypassing translators to be understood by every being listening. I am the last dimensional dragon, keeper of the World Forge. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth of stars and the death of worlds. And I tell you this, the age of conquest is over. A new age begins. One where cooperation replaces domination, where strength is measured by what you build rather than what you destroy. Choose wisely, Supreme Commander. Your next words will echo through history. The communication channel fell silent. On ships throughout the system, on worlds across the galaxy where this transmission was being broadcast, billions of beings waited for Torvax's response. The Supreme Commander looked at his tactical displays, at the combined forces of humanity and the Eldari, at the dragon that embodied power beyond his comprehension. He thought about his fleet, his crews, the millions of lives under his command. He thought about the empire he had served for his entire life and the cracks forming in its foundation. And he made his choice. The Grand Armada will stand down, Torvax said, his voice heavy with defeat and something else. Perhaps relief. We will hear your full terms and negotiate in good faith. But know this, many in the Council will resist this change. There will be factions who refuse to accept a new order. Then we will deal with them as they come, Claire said firmly. But today the war ends. Today we choose a better path. The tension that had gripped the solar system began to ease. Council ships powered down their weapons. Human and Eldari vessels maintained their positions but stood down from combat readiness. The immediate crisis had passed. Over the following weeks, negotiations took place aboard a neutral station constructed specifically for the purpose. Maya found herself representing Earth alongside President Hayes and General Meadows, working with Eldari diplomats and even some council members who saw the wisdom in change. The Galactic Alliance was born from those negotiations, a federation where member species retained their sovereignty, but cooperated on matters of mutual interest. The Council's military was disbanded, its resources redistributed to member worlds for defense rather than conquest. Worlds that had been subjugated were freed, given aid to rebuild and reclaim their autonomy. Not everyone accepted the new order peacefully. Some council commanders refused to stand down, choosing to fight rather than surrender power. But they were few, and the combined forces of the Alliance dealt with them swiftly. The galaxy was changing, and those who could not adapt found themselves left behind. Earth became a central hub of the new alliance, its technology and dimensional research shared freely with other species. Humanity's gift for rapid innovation and adaptation proved invaluable as the galaxy rebuilt itself. Elindra chose to remain on Earth, teaching at a newly established academy where humans and Eldari learned from each other. She watched with pride as her student Nicole Grant became one of the Alliance's finest commanders, leading fleets that protected rather than conquered. Emberwing grew to his full size, magnificent and powerful beyond measure. The dragon divided his time between Earth and dimensional exploration, serving as a guardian of the rifts and ensuring that the world forge remained secure. Maya often accompanied him, her scientific curiosity never satisfied, always seeking to understand the mysteries of dimensional physics. In the Cascade Mountains, where everything had begun, a memorial was erected. At its center was a statue of Lieutenant Amy Brooks, her fighter craft captured in crystal in the moment before her sacrifice. Visitors from across the galaxy came to pay their respects, to honor the human who had given everything so others could live. Kate Brooks, Amy's younger sister, became a pilot herself, following in her sister's footsteps. She flew escort for diplomatic missions, protecting the peace that Amy had died to create. And every time she launched into space, she whispered the same words: Earth was worth it. President Linda Hayes stood in the White House garden one evening, 5 years after the war had ended. The sky above was filled with ships from a dozen different species, all coming and going in peace. Earth had become a crossroads of the galaxy, a place where cultures met and cooperation flourished. General Claire Meadows joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about that day?" Claire asked. When the council's first broadcast came through and everyone started smiling, Linda chuckled softly. "Every day. We were so ready for that moment. 50 years of preparation, of building and planning and hoping we would never need any of it. And when they finally came, all I felt was relief. The waiting was over. We lost good people in that war," Claire said quietly. "Amy and hundreds more. Sometimes I wonder if we could have avoided it, found a peaceful solution earlier." "Maybe," Linda admitted. "But the council needed to see that we would fight, that we could not be bullied or conquered." That smile everyone wore was not arrogance. It was confidence born from preparation. We knew who we were and what we were capable of. That is what changed the galaxy. In orbit above Earth, Emberwing soared through the void, his scales reflecting starlight in patterns that spoke of joy and freedom. Elindra rode on his back, her laughter carried across dimensional frequencies. And beside them, in a small research vessel, Maya recorded data and smiled. The galaxy had announced war on Earth, expecting easy conquest. They had found warriors instead, warriors who smiled not because they were foolish or reckless, but because they had been waiting, preparing, and when the moment came, they were ready. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. Humanity was not prey. They were guardians, protectors, and partners to those who came in peace. But to those who came with conquest in their hearts, they were something far more dangerous. They were the line in the sand. The point where aggression met its match. The species that smiled at extinction and chose to fight instead. And that smile had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would make sure it was better for it. The end.